Hey guys, today we're going to be going over my suggested sets for Heatran in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Of course, if you enjoy, leave a like below, subscribe if you're new, and with that said, let's just get right into it. So I do want to preface really quickly that these sets, unlike the ones with Gliscor, we do actually know what moves will and won't be in the game on what Pokemon now. So because of that, I'm going to link to that paste bin down below for anyone who wants to go over it. I'll have a video in more depth discussing this on Friday though, if you are interested. So stay tuned for that, I guess. I will be going over a lot of things. I just have someone currently eyeing game mechanics right now to test a couple things and making sure that they work as I'm hoping they do, because I do think it'll be for interesting talking points, at least for the Wi-Fi side of things, for the meta. But regardless, though, I do have some Heatran sets that I felt like should be pretty good in this current state of DPP OU. So hopefully this ends up being something you enjoy, and maybe you'll like one of these sets and want to use it yourself. So first up, the first set that I want to go over is the anti-Heatran Heatran. That's what I call this. I gave them all kind of funny names. I'll link to a full page with all of them down below. The anti-Heatran Heatran there was an air balloon Heatran. I tried looking over what Heatran would need moveset wise, and originally I was like, oh, we could probably just go with mono fire move this gen, or maybe just mono stabs. But then I was like, no, we need earth power. And I was like, wait, why do we need earth power? Pex isn't here anymore. And then I cut myself off when I was saying Toxa, and I was like, Heatran's here. I was like, fuck, do I really need earth power just for Heatran mirrors? And the answer is yes. It's just like Lander with HP Ice. You really do need it because Heatran will probably be the most used Pokemon. It's already one of the most used in the Landorus Therian metas. So already I really can't see a reason for this not being top 1 usage, especially when Heatran's honestly just really good at countering a lot of really good Pokemon in the meta. Though I will say, if Rain is not complex banned out of DPPOU, I do think that will definitely hurt Heatran usage a lot, because I do think that Kingdra, with how very few checks there are to it, could actually be a really dominant Pokemon. Though I have a whole video that I'm also planning to do later on discussing weathers. That's one of the things I'm currently waiting on to figure out if weather, like how weather's going to work and if it reverted or not. So currently though, this Heatran though I felt like could be pretty good, because I think that the most used Pokemon will probably end up being Heatran, if not at least top 3. And this set also still gives her really good rockers because there's no boots in the game right now, which is going to be really helpful, to be honest. You still have Flash Cannon for the very few fairies that are in the game, though I will say the very few fairies will probably hurt a lot more for any lower tiers if there is a DPP UU, RU, etc. I don't know if there will be, because there wasn't before as far as I'm aware, just not OU and OU and then Ubers. But if there are lower tiers, I will say though that the fairy nerf will probably hurt a lot for that, but Clefable still being in the game should not really make a difference. It was probably the best Pokemon that would have became a fairy that will be OU, so should be plenty fine. But Flash Cannon is still very good for that. You do still honestly need it for Clef, because Clef is just that annoying, and I think that Life Orb Calm Mind Clefs could be pretty good in this sort of format. I would check a lot of different things, so having Flash Cannon just before it Calm Minds up could be pretty useful. It's just max speed, again, because you need it for other Heatrans. It's really just for other Heatran counters. Especially for bulky ones, you can outpace them in Earth Power, so it can be pretty useful. Next up, we have Scarfer. I did it this way to reference the Scarfer Lantern emote in that circles around the Draft League community. Obviously, it's a Draft League thing at that point, but yeah, I mean, I thought it was funny. It's a Scarf Heatran though. Similarly, you want to go max speed for other Scarf Heatrans, though at the same time, it's also just pretty useful because with Scarf Heatran, you can outpace things like Latios, for example, and Garchomp. And I do think these Pokemon will, again, be some of the best Pokemon in the format, especially Lati and Garchomp. I think those will probably be 2 of the top 5 as well. So with that in mind, Dragon Pulse is really good for them. We have Earth Power along with Stabs. I went with Fire Blast in this set because I felt like that you're not going to really click Magma Storm, and sadly Eruption was cut. Though on the bright side, that does mean that I'm not going to have to pick between Eruption or Fire move that's not Eruption or Dragon Pulse for 2 slots. Because without Eruption, at the very least, it does afford Dragon Pulse more reliability, I guess. Because while Eruption is really good for the damage, I think Dragon Pulse ultimately favors the meta better anyway for what will probably end up being common. But who knows? It does also give you something for Kingdra, which again, I felt that Rain can be pretty useful. So if Rain is not currently up, you do avoid actually touch Kingdra with this set, because otherwise your best option was Earth Power, which is not really the best. Even if Rain ends up being complex banned though, Sniper Kingdra could honestly still be an OU Pokemon with just how few checks there are to it, besides things like Suicune and Slowking. So with that said, I mean, it could still be a thing you want to still be prepared for. So Scarf Heatran could still be a really good Pokemon, even if Rain, it'll especially be good if Rain is banned. But in general, though, this will be a pretty good Pokemon. I think a Dragon Pulse is a really needed move on it. You could have definitely done something like Dark Pulse, for example, for Psychics. But again, I think that the Dragons, a lot of them are much more terrifying, and both still hit Lottie. So that's the important thing, because Lottie would take nothing from this set besides, I guess Flash Cannon would do a bit. but it would wall Fire Blast pretty well, and it would definitely be immune to Earth Power because of Levitate. So yeah, I do think that the Dragon Pulse is the best fourth move there, but you can fill it with a lot. Sadly not Toxic though, because it's cut, but I'll go over that in a bit with the Magma Storm Heatran. So I decided to go with the Magma Storm Heatran. I'm personally thinking this probably won't be that important this gen. Magma Storm Heatran, I think, of the sets that I'm going to cover today, is going to be the worst. However, it's a set that does really well currently in the past couple OUs, so I did feel like I should at least address it. It was really good for Pokemon like, for example, Toxapex, that was really huge, and you can Magma Storm them and trap them, and that was really good, especially if you hit Magma Storm. However, at this point, the only Pokemon I can really see it being useful for is maybe like a Slowbro or Slowking, but even still, doesn't really beat any of them 1v1. Though, I will say, to be fair, you could ditch Earth Power for Dark Pulse in the set, but I do think you still need Earth Power for Heatran, specifically for Heatran. Though, to be fair, you could pair this with a really good ground type like a Garchomp, let's say, or a Nidoking or Nidoqueen, and still be fine in that department. And especially with one of those, you could actually justify maybe going with that, because all those Pokemon, well, especially Garchomp would really rely on Slowbro being gone. So you could still run this for that, though again, I wouldn't really say that Magma Storm Heatran's going to have a huge place in the meta. If the other two sets were respectively S rank and A+, this Heatran set would probably be like a B. The other two sets I think that will definitely be, well, at least the next set will be a bit better. I included the last set for Owen because I know that Owen would want me to address it, seeing as he was a DPP fan, and I know it's a set he really liked, and I think it's at least on par with this set if nothing else, but we'll get into that in a bit. Next up we have Brrr, which is basically Scarftran. I thought Specs Heatran could be pretty good because realistically, if you're going to click something like a Specs Fire Blast, the only Pokemon that'll really want to switch into that consistently are Pokemon like Slowbro, Slowking, and then like Suicune. Maybe AV Kingdra could, not AV Kingdra, AV Azu could do it, but that's risking Flash Cannon, for example, which it's neutral to because of the Fairy typing. So that could definitely hurt its case there, especially from a Spec set. This could be a pretty terrifying Pokemon. Something that I will mention though on a Spec set, you could potentially ditch Dragon Pulse for Solar Beam if you're going to run this thing with Sunsetter. And I thought this could be a really cool Sunbreaker actually. One of the big things that would be really good for this is it would not only take advantage of taking other fire hits from other random Sun Pokemon, but on top of that as well, it's going to take advantage of the Sun and offensively deal with it. So I will also take the time to mention though that Venusaur lost both Earth Power and Weather Ball in this gen. So I don't know if Sun will even have a place in OU anymore because it's not like you're going to run with Victory Bell into OU and try and do damage. It's just not going to happen. There's so many counters to that, in my opinion, that it's really never going to be worth running. However, if nothing else, I mean, Heatran could maybe justify it as like running a Sun team and then just throwing Victory Bell on it because you're running a Sun team already. Regardless of, I did think Specs Heatran as well could be a really good wall breaker, depending on the team you're playing. I don't know if I would say this is the best Heatran set. I do think it's at least better than the Magma Storm set in this current meta. But again, this is all just pre-game speculation, so who knows. I will say though, that you could easily swap this for Life Orb, and if you did that, I would probably maybe throw in Taunt here, because I do think a Taunt can be really good. However, again, I think that the Specs is probably better because you'll just do half to most things with just how good Heatran's special attack is, and also just how well the coverage hits with these four moves. You'd be surprised. Like, it's just like Spinef Waters that would really take this on. Because Rock types, for example, would be worrying about Flash Cannon. Ground types aren't going to resist fire. They're just going to deal a lot of damage back. Then there's like Dragons, which you have Dragon Pulse for. So you do overall have a lot of options with the Specs Heatran just to really do damage. It's just the Spinef Waters. So especially like an AV Slowking could be really good for this. Same as Milotic too. I forgot to mention that. But Milotic might actually probably be just the best answer to this. In general, Milotic might actually be a huge thing you're going to want to prepare for if you're running any sort of Heatran set. Unless you're running Power Herb Solar Beam, which that is something I forgot to mention. You could technically run Power Herb Solar Beam, but I wouldn't really recommend it because of the fact that you're not going to really get much use out of it unless you predict perfectly. And even then, it's just going to be like I mean, it could still be good. I'd probably just go Sunny Dank Heatran at that point if you're going to go with that, and just go Manual Sun if you're going to really go the Solar Beam route, because then at least you guarantee that you're going to be able to actually use the move. But I still don't think that would be a good set anyway. Regardless of Specs Heatran, I think could be a really good breaker. I didn't want to lose track of the initial point there, but I think it would especially benefit from a Sunsetter, so something like a Torkoal could be a great partner for this. Finally, we have the Owen Heatran, and the reason that the Owen Heatran could actually be maybe useful is specifically, this would be the set that could maybe take advantage of Magma Storm, because you could actually maybe go through Scald Pokemon and Torment them, so that they can't click Scald repeatedly, which would mean on something like a Slowbro, for example, you're going to sub on that pretty easily, because what you basically do is you click Magma Storm, then you click Torment, As long as you EV to make sure you take 2 Scalds. This is currently crept for T-Tar because that's what the initial set did. And I moved the 32 out of special attack because you're going to want a bit more spec def. Because the 12 spec def with Calm Nature was for regular form Rotom without the Rotom forms. So that had 95 special attack if I remember correctly. Point is though is that the alternate forms all have 105, so they have more. So you're going to want to just go like hard spec def on this in my opinion. You can probably take out a bit of speed for sure. This is just, as I said, it was just left over from Relic of an old set. But it could still be useful to be fair for just outpacing T-Tar and maybe stopping Earthquake so you could sub and Magma Storm it out. And then just try and stall it out as much as you can in any sort of scenario if it has a little bit of chip. It certainly isn't the best Heatran set in my opinion, but I do think if nothing else, this is probably the best way to take advantage of Magma Storm this gen, because you're not going to be just spamming Magma Storm Earth Power. And if nothing else, this Heatran set would be able to actually maybe PP stall some teams really well. Because, for example, with Torment, you're going to have 24 PP, Sub is 16, Protect is 16, Magma Storm is 8. So, I mean, it's not the most PP in the world, but it's definitely something, especially when a lot of Pokemon that are on fat teams are going to miss out on Toxic, which is a free set of PP right there to stall. I do also think, though, that on the flip side, that Heatran Toxic not existing on a lot of Pokemon means that Heatran, I guess, trying to go and be a stall breaker isn't going to be as needed. Because Stall won't really have Toxic on a lot of teams, at least a natural BDSP meta before home transfer is compatible to BDSP. But until that happens, though, I think that this is probably just, again, a moderately okay Heatran set. Though, I do think you could totally ditch Torment for Toxic when the time comes that Toxic is finally re-added back. And that could honestly be a phenomenal stall breaker. You could ditch Protect as well at that point for Taunt if you felt like it, though I think the Protect could have a lot of merit as well. I did forget to mention as well, the 244 HP is specifically for leftovers. This is the leftovers number. Gets you the most out of leftovers recovery because you're going to be going for subs and protects a lot. So most of your time in the set is spent on Magma Storm racking up as you're going for passive plays, and for substitute and protect just being ways to get more leftovers back on turns that an opponent might click a Scald or something, which could be really useful as well because you're going for subs or protects. You're minimizing potential water moves you actually have to take, which could help you, as I said, stalling out those bulky waters. But they can still definitely go for recovery moves, so it's just something. This sort of Heatran, I think my biggest issue with it is you really have 5 moves that you need on it to work. However, if Heatran could fit 5 moves and it could throw on Taunt here as well, this set would be absolutely insane in this metagame. With that said, though, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and maybe you guys learned something. If you did, leave a like below and let me know your favorite Heatran set that you're going to use. If you didn't like any of these, let me know what set you would recommend. And with that said, I will see you guys in tomorrow's video, where I forget what we're going to be discussing, but I do have a calendar. I'm going to pull it up really quickly. Tomorrow's video is going to be Rotom forms, so stay tuned for that. With that said, I will see you guys later. Peace out, guys.